After my father-in-law died, my husband inherited the house, but insisted his younger brother move in temporarily. Just a few weeks, he said. That turned into months. I found the brother's hoodie in our bedroom, his Spotify account on our TV, and my husband always sleeping on the couch. When I asked, he said, "It's complicated." So I made it simple. I threw both of their clothes on the lawn, changed the locks, and called his mother. She said, "You deserved better anyway." I'm Amanda. I'm 42. I live in Thornton, Colorado, and I used to think I had a decent marriage. Not perfect, not Hollywood, but solid. Jason and I had been married for 7 years. He was quiet, stable, and worked in IT. I worked as an office admin at a construction company, paid our bills on time, and cooked dinner most nights. We didn't fight much. We weren't wild, but we worked. And then his dad died. Rick, my father-in-law, was 64. He was mowing his yard when he collapsed. Heart attack. It shocked everyone. He was the kind of guy who seemed like he'd live forever. Worked with his hands, did his own repairs, always wore the same gray overalls. Tough guy. Jason didn't show a ton of emotion, but I could tell it hit him hard. The funeral was a mess. I remember hugging his mom outside the church. She was shaking. Jason held it together until they lowered the casket. Then he just stared. When the will came in, Jason inherited the house. Just a basic one-story home on the east side of town. Small porch. 2 bedrooms. Needed repairs, sure, but it was solid. I thought we'd sell it or rent it. But Jason had other plans. He came home one evening and said, "Tyler's gonna move in there. Just for a few weeks." I paused. Why? He just broke up with Lexi. He's crashing on a friend's couch right now. Just needs time. Tyler, his younger brother, was always in some sort of mess. Unemployed more often than not. Moved between jobs, girlfriends, and excuses. Always the type to show up at Thanksgiving without calling first, eat half the pie, and say something like, "I'm thinking of starting a food truck." I didn't love the idea, but I didn't argue. A few weeks sounded harmless. The first time I noticed something was off was about 2 months in. I came home early from work, walked into my living room, and found Tyler laying on the couch, shirtless. Eating my chips and watching Netflix like he owned the place. "Hey Amanda," he said casually, like this was totally normal. I just stood there. "Where's Jason?" "He's picking up food." "Why aren't you at your place?" He shrugged. "The water heater broke. I couldn't shower." I frowned. And I didn't want to stink. He winked at me. That made my skin crawl. I didn't laugh. I didn't smile. I just walked away. That night, I asked Jason, "How long is Tyler staying?" Jason rubbed his eyes. "It's temporary. You said that 2 months ago." "I know. It's just complicated." "What's complicated?" "He's not doing well." I noticed. That conversation ended in silence. Then things started disappearing. First it was my orange hoodie. Then a pair of socks. A candle I bought last Christmas. Then I found a bottle of men's cologne under the sink. Not Jason's brand. I asked him, "Is this yours?" He didn't even look. "Probably." I dropped it on the counter. "It's not. You don't wear this." He didn't answer. A few days later, I turned on the TV and noticed Tyler's Spotify account had been synced. His playlists were all saved on the home screen. One was titled Mood Lighting. Another was called She Likes It Slow. I stared at the screen for a full minute. The final straw was the hoodie. It was a Champion hoodie. Dark gray. Definitely not Jason's style. It was laid across our bed. I picked it up and held it. It smelled like cologne and weed. Not a trace of Jason. I walked into the hallway. Tyler was standing there. "Looking for something?" he asked. "You left your hoodie in my bedroom." He grinned. "Oops." My voice dropped. "You do not go in my bedroom." He didn't say anything, just smiled like a man who knew something I didn't. That night, Jason slept on the couch again. When I asked why, he didn't even lie. It's complicated. I didn't speak. I just stared at him. And that's when I made up my mind. Saturday morning. Jason left for a drive. I waited for the door to close, then went to our closet. I grabbed every piece of Jason's clothing. Shirts, pants, underwear, socks, even that ratty hoodie he wore when he was sick. I shoved it all in trash bags. Then I moved to the guest room. Tyler's duffel bag. His Red Wings hoodie. His deodorant. All of it gone. I dragged a folding table into the front yard. I poured everything out. The neighbors definitely saw. I know Mrs. Patel did. She was watching from her front porch, mouth open. I didn't care. I changed the locks. I'd already bought the replacements from Lowe's 3 weeks ago, just in case. Then I sat on the couch and called Jason's mother. She answered quickly. "Hi, Amanda. I just kicked your sons out of my house." Silence. Then she said, "Good." I froze. "What?" "You deserved better anyway." Then she hung up. I stared at the phone. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from relief. But this was just the beginning. After I threw their crap on the lawn and changed the locks, things went quiet for about 48 hours. I think they were shocked. They didn't think I had it in me. Maybe they thought I'd cry, scream, or beg for an explanation. I didn't do any of that. I just cut the cord. But deep down, I knew Jason wasn't the type to let things go. And Tyler? That snake would show up again too. Men like them don't leave clean. They leave a mess. And I was about to find out just how messy they could get. The first sign came Monday morning. I pulled into the office parking lot, and my boss was waiting near my desk when I walked in. He looked uncomfortable. "Amanda, can I talk to you in my office for a minute?" My stomach dropped. We sat down. He closed the door. "I got an email over the weekend," he said slowly. "Anonymous tip. Said you were using company time to run a side business." I blinked. "What?" "They included screenshots from your personal email. And a few photos." I froze. "What kind of photos?" He cleared his throat. "One of you at your desk. Another of your computer screen. You were shopping for luggage, apparently." That's when I knew. Jason had access to my iCloud. He had the login. I'd never changed it. I hadn't thought to. The screenshots were from months ago. Once, during lunch, I'd searched for carry-ons for a trip we never took. But they made it look like I was running some scam. I stood up. "You really think I'd risk my job to look at luggage?" He sighed. "I don't. But I had to ask." I walked out of that office with my jaw clenched so tight I gave myself a headache. That night, I got the second hit. My credit card was declined at the grocery store. Embarrassing as hell. I paid cash and rushed home. Logged into my account. $3,279.19 gone. All charged to food delivery apps, gas stations, and liquor stores over the last 4 days. The name on the charges? Jason M. He'd never had access to that card. But I'd left the physical one in the drawer in the kitchen. I should have cut it. I didn't think I needed to. I was wrong. I called the bank. Reported fraud. They were helpful, but slow. It'll take a few business days to process the reimbursement. I was already behind on bills after the funeral expenses. I called Jason. Straight to voicemail. I called again. This time, he answered. "What?" he said flatly. "You stole my card." "No, I borrowed it." I laughed. "You mean you stole it?" "You owe me." I blinked. "For what?" "For letting you live in my house." I almost dropped the phone. "Your house?" "Yeah, Dad's house." "That money?" "That helped cover your rent." I felt something in me snap. "You're insane," I said. "We don't even live there." "We did. For a few nights." I hung up. Called the police. Reported it. They took the report. But it wouldn't go anywhere fast. The next day, I got a knock at the door. I thought it might be the locksmith following up. It was Tyler. He stood there, hands in his pockets, wearing his smug little smirk. "Hey," he said. I didn't respond. "Can I come in?" No, he nodded, like he expected that. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You know, you made this whole thing worse than it had to be. We were being discreet. You could have just looked the other way." I stepped out onto the porch and shut the door behind me. "You slept with my husband." "In my bed?" He chuckled. He came to me. Not the other way around. I stared at him, trying not to scream. "Why?" He shrugged. "You didn't see him, Amanda." He was miserable. You sucked the life out of him. He needed someone who got him. Like his brother? He leaned in, like he was about to say something else. But I didn't wait. I lifted my knee fast, hard, and caught him right in the groin. He dropped like a rock. I turned and walked back inside, locked the door, and called my lawyer. Because now it wasn't just about betrayal. It was about destruction. They wanted to ruin me? Fine. Let's see how they like it when the person they dismissed as just a boring wife fights back. And I fight dirty. After I kneed Tyler in the groin and called my lawyer, something inside me clicked. I wasn't scared anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't confused. I was ready. They'd made a mess of my life, and now I was going to return the favor carefully, legally, and thoroughly. But I didn't expect the next twist to come from Jason's mother. 3 days after the front yard showdown, I got a voicemail. "Hi, Amanda. It's Judy. I'd like to meet. Just you and me." I hadn't spoken to her since she told me I deserved better. I didn't trust it, but curiosity won out. We met at a Panera near my office. I picked a booth in the back, near the window. She arrived wearing sunglasses and holding a folder. "I'm sorry about everything," she said the moment she sat down. I raised an eyebrow. "Everything?" She sighed. "You need to know something. About the house. And about Rick's will." I sat up straighter. She opened the folder and pushed a document across the table. It was a copy of the will. And then I saw it clear as day. Rick had left the house to both sons, Jason and Tyler, as joint owners. I blinked. Jason said it was his. She shook her head. "That's what he told everyone. But Tyler owns half." I stared at her. "Why are you showing me this now?" She leaned in. "Because Tyler's planning to sell his half. To someone else. Not to Jason. To a buyer. Can he do that?" She nodded. "Legally, yes. He can force a partition. It'll drag Jason into court." I stared down at the will. "Why would he do that?" She shrugged. "Because Tyler doesn't care. He's broke. He wants cash." I whispered, "Oh my God." It got worse. Judy leaned back and added, "There's something else. I shouldn't say this, but Rick suspected something between them. Before he died." I froze. "What do you mean?" She looked out the window. "He walked in on something. In the garage. He didn't tell me the details. Just said, 'I think the boys are too close.' That's why he changed the will, to force them to stay tied together. He thought it would shake them out of it." My stomach turned. "You mean, he left them the house together on purpose? To punish them?" She nodded. "He hoped they'd have to work it out. But I think it backfired. When I got home, I called my lawyer again." She listened patiently as I explained the new information. Then she said, "We can push back. If Tyler tries to sell to someone, we'll contest it. We can also go after Jason for financial fraud and marital misconduct. You've got receipts. You've got witnesses." That's when the plan formed in my head. Let them try. Let them fight each other over the house. Let them sink in court costs, paperwork, and lawsuits. Because I was going to file for divorce and request discovery on everything. Every shared account. Every hidden purchase. Every lie. I wasn't just kicking them out of my life. I was kicking over every brick they ever stood on. While Jason and Tyler were busy squatting in their late father's house, trying to figure out how to avoid killing each other over their joint inheritance, I was busy building my own case. What they didn't know, and what I never let on, was that I'd already hired a private investigator. Her name was Monica. Late 50s, retired from Denver PD, and didn't have time for games. When I told her what happened, she said, "Give me a week." She took 2 days. Monica met me at a diner and handed me a manila envelope. "You might want to sit down for this," she said. Inside were photos. Dozens. Tyler and Jason, at a hotel in Denver. Checking in. Together. Different dates, same place. Another shot, them in the parking lot. Jason leaning in. Tyler with his hand on Jason's back. Then one that hit me like a punch. Jason's car, parked outside my office, with Tyler in the driver's seat. Watching. "I think he's been tailing you," Monica said. "Not long. A couple days. Maybe trying to figure out what you know." I asked her, "Can I use this in court?" She smiled. "Absolutely." But there was something else in the folder. Bank records. Not mine, Rick's. Monica had found something strange in the probate records. A large withdrawal 2 weeks before Rick died. 5,000 cash, she said. Taken out by Rick, personally. No explanation in the notes. I frowned. What did he do with it? She shook her head. Don't know yet. But guess who deposited exactly 5,000 into his account 3 days after the funeral? Tyler. Bingo. I sat back in my seat. What if Rick found out about them? I said slowly. And paid Tyler to stay away? What if that money was hush money? Monica raised her eyebrows. That's a theory I can dig into. I didn't confront Jason right away. I wanted to wait until I had more. Instead, I kept going. I opened a new bank account, changed all my passwords, froze my credit, alerted all 3 bureaus, cut every loose string they might use to slither back into my life. Then I filed the divorce papers and sent them straight to the house. Certified mail. Return receipt requested. 2 days later, I got a text from Jason. Really? After everything? I replied with one line, enjoy court. Discovery starts next week. He didn't respond. But Tyler did. He sent a screenshot of my old wedding photo, slashed with a red X. Below it, he wrote, "You'll regret this." So I forwarded it to Monica. Her response? Let him keep sending threats. The more he texts, the more he bleeds in court. The twist came when Judy called again. She was crying. They're trying to sell the house, she sobbed. To a cash buyer. Under the table. What? They're desperate. Jason's out of money. Tyler's behind on loans. They want to unload it before the courts freeze it. That's when the last piece fell into place. I smiled. Because I'd already called the probate attorney and filed a notice of contest based on financial misconduct. They could try to sell it. But now I was on the deed as a lien holder in the divorce. They couldn't go anywhere without dragging me through the mud. And I was ready. Because revenge isn't loud. It doesn't scream. Sometimes, it just waits. Patient. Prepared. And absolutely lethal. After I filed the divorce and blocked Jason and Tyler everywhere, I thought I'd finally get peace. But those two weren't done with their games. What they didn't know, couldn't have known, was that while they were scheming to sell Rick's house behind my back, I was already 2 steps ahead. Thanks to my lawyer, my name was now tied to that house as part of the divorce claim, which meant they couldn't sell a damn thing without me signing off. When they tried, my lawyer filed an emergency motion to freeze the property. And we won. The sale collapsed overnight. That's when the threats really started. Anonymous calls. Texts from fake numbers. You ruined everything, one of them said. Hope it was worth it. Another message just said, see you soon. So I went to the police. They couldn't do much unless someone acted, but Monica? She could. She traced the burner phone numbers and found that one of them was tied to a prepaid phone Jason bought with my old Amazon account. He was using my money to stalk me. That was the final nail. My lawyer filed for an emergency protection order. It passed. Jason couldn't come within 100 feet of me or my workplace. And if he did? Jail. Now, here's the twist they never saw coming. While we were sorting out the divorce, we found something buried in Rick's bank history. Monica tracked down the bank where Rick had withdrawn that $5,000 2 weeks before his death. It wasn't hush money. It was a retainer. Rick had quietly hired a separate lawyer, one who specialized in private family trusts. Turns out, Rick had been working on changing his will again. He wanted to cut Tyler out entirely. Said in an email to the lawyer, "I don't like what I saw." He crossed a line with his brother. "I want the house to go to Jason only unless he continues the relationship. In that case, give it to Amanda. She's the only sane one." That revision never got signed. But the lawyer kept the draft. And the emails. And my lawyer used all of it in court. You should have seen the judge's face. "You slept with your brother?" he asked Jason. Jason looked like he wanted to disappear. "No," he mumbled. Tyler stood there, arms crossed, silent. My lawyer laid it all out. The photos, the emails, the bank withdrawals, the threats, the fraud, and then she dropped the final bomb. "Your Honor, my client is willing to walk away from alimony. She won't request back payments for the stolen credit card. All she asks is this, that the house goes to her, that both brothers are barred from future claims, and that her name is cleared." The judge leaned back, looked at the pile of evidence, then at the pathetic pair across the room. "Granted." Just like that. The house, Rick's house, was mine. Judy cried when I told her. She said Rick would have wanted it that way. Jason tried to call me afterward. I didn't answer. Tyler messaged me once, no words. Just a photo of the empty front lawn. I blocked him. Now I live in that house. I fixed the roof, repainted the porch, turned the guest room into a reading nook. Sometimes, people ask me why I didn't just leave it all behind. I tell them, because I wanted to finish it. They burned down my trust. So I burned down every single lie they ever built. And I did it the right way. Quiet. Precise. Complete. They wanted to play dirty? Too bad I learned how to fight clean and still win.